I'm taking on a huge challenge, going to be beating every N64 game ever released. No guides, no help, all done on the original hardware just like it was back in the day. The twist is the next game I play is randomly generated, so I have no idea what's coming next. Last video we blew a bunch of dudes up with a tank, and today we're going back to platforming. Hey, welcome back to another episode of Beating Every N64 Game. If you do enjoy these videos, make sure to leave a like as it does help me out a lot, and if you want to catch the next one, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss it. Game number 5, Tonic Trouble, developed by Ubisoft, released in 1999 for the N64. You may have heard of Ubisoft. This is yet another game I'd absolutely never heard of in my life, and most of my viewers hadn't really heard of this one either, so I think it's safe to say it wasn't too popular. Again, when I turned this game on, it warned me, hey, you don't have a memory pack and you won't be able to save. My memory card still hadn't arrived yet from eBay, but I figured no problem, just leave the N64 again overnight till I beat it. So this game's like your standard 3D platformer collectathon all over the N64 back in the day. When we first start a new game, we're greeted with some opening cutscenes to set the lore, you know. There's this dude Ed, he's on a spaceship doing a bit of cleaning, and you're thinking, man, this guy looks a lot like Rayman. Hey, that's a good idea, because this game was made by the creator of Rayman, and it's actually a prototype for seeing if Rayman could work as a 3D game. Anyway, so while Ed's cleaning, he finds this can. It's got some drink in it, so naturally he's like, takes a sip of it. Don't know what this is, and whatever it is, it's so foul he throws up and somehow opens a chute that leads out of the ship, and the can just so happens to fall perfectly out of it. It also just so happens to fall to Earth and perfectly land next to this evil villain dude. The drink turns all the animals on Earth evil and brings the plants to life. And some newspaper dude yells at us for littering and tells us to find the dock. Also, his daughter Susie can help us out. And that evil villain dude, his name is Grow, and he's trying to take over the world. There's also this pharmacist who's making all the animals and plants evil. Apparently he's doing it by combining the stuff in the can with piggy methane. And you know where piggy methane comes from, right? Anyway, so Ed gets on an escape pod and goes to Earth to try to save the day. So after the opening cutscene, it just throws you right into this level, no warning, and basically you slide down this icy slope. Yeah, here you go, get playing. There's a timer on screen with a goal time to beat, but it turns out you don't actually have to beat it. That's a goal for later on. There's these swirly purple and orange things throughout the level, and collecting them shows that there's 20 of them in this area, and we'll find out more about them later. You'll also see a HUD view occasionally. The count in the top left is our lives remaining, the thermometer is our health. The only real danger here is falling in a pit, but even that doesn't really do anything. It just warps you back and you don't lose any lives. So when you finish the slide, Ed goes through this portal thing, and now we're in the main overworld for the game. Susie's there waiting for us, and for whatever reason she's upset that we're purple. I don't know what the heck that's supposed to mean. She says the first thing we need to do is free her father because he's an inventor and can help us out. When we get one of those swirly things in the overworld, the newspaper dude tells us they're an antidote and we need 160 of them to become immune to the effects of the can, but doesn't really say anything else about it. So we go underground, there's these evil tomato looking things, and we can go in a portal to the Doc's cave. The newspaper dude is down here, and apparently his name is Agent XYZ. He reiterates the importance of freeing the Doc. There's these ducks with bear traps for mouths down there, and well, they killed me immediately. Remember that I can't save? Getting a game over would mean I lose all my progress. Along with the antidotes, we also can collect thermometers in each level, and getting 10 of them will increase our max health. This level's more of an actual platforming level rather than the slide we saw before. The first real example of this is having to jump over some floating platforms hovering over a pool of lava. During the first level I thought, hey, this game might actually be pretty fun. All the levels in this game are pretty much a series of challenge rooms with a portal that warps you to a new room. Kind of like a disconnected Mario Maker level where the maker relies on doors and pipes rather than continuity. I don't think there's anything wrong with this, but it makes it harder to feel like you're in a connected environment when you do it this way. So eventually we run into Agent XYZ again, and he mentions something about the Doc's popcorn and how it will affect us. I thought this was really weird, and yeah, it is kind of out of place. This is like a little puzzle section where we have to move a box to block this broken pipe, and that fixes the popcorn machine, and we turn into Super Ed. He gets jacked, and he can do things like bend metal bars. So you know how the whole popcorn thing seems out of place? Well, Apparently this game was partnered with Newman's Own to promote their popcorn. It's kind of hard to tell, but they throw their logo on the popcorn machines all throughout the game, and apparently if you bought this back in the day, it came with a free bag of popcorn. Honestly, that's a super weird partnership. Like, I would have never thought that would be a thing. Later we run into this ear of corn who just seems to hate us for some reason. You'll find that all the vegetables and wildlife in this game don't like Ed. After tricking him, he falls in the lava and turns into, you guessed it, popcorn. After a bit of platforming, we find where the doc is being held prisoner. Thankfully there's a popcorn machine nearby and we can use it to kick the guard's butt and free the doc. We also get a weapon here, a stick, so now we can actually do something other than move and jump. So now we finally get a bit of a clue about what's going on and what we need to do to beat this game. The doc tells us in order to stop Grow, we need to find all the parts to repair his machine so he can launch us into Grow's HQ. First place he wants us to check is the Vegetable HQ and obtain 6 springs. Basically, if we obtain all the pieces to fix his machine, we can reach the end of the game. When we arrive at the Vegetable HQ, we learn Agent XYZ that the vegetables have come to life due to the can, and they aren't exactly privy to going back to the days before they had sentience, so they will violently oppose you trying to stop Grow. Honestly, I can't blame them. Shortly into the HQ, we run into some angry green beans that throw explosives at us. Thankfully, there's a button nearby that turns on a flamethrower, so we make quick work of him. Somehow he survives and sends an angry tomato at us, but the tomato knocks him into a pit. So after beating the beans, we get our first spring. After riding around on this moving platform that reminds me of that one thing in the Hazy Maze Cave in Mario 64, you know what I'm talking about, we get the second spring. Hey, a spring. I need 6 of these. The next room features a weird platform with a propeller on it. I don't know. Like, a lot of things in this game are just so random. Anyway, this room lets us eat more popcorn to fight a big pepper, who reveals the 3rd spring upon beating him. Have I mentioned how janky this game is? Like, look at some of the interactions you get with ledges. Dude, what is that? Anyway, so later we end up in this room where the evil carrots keep popping up and we have to burn them with a flamethrower. Killing them reveals the 4th spring. And finally we cross a wooden bridge and see Susie next to the 5th spring. She tells us she's disappointed we didn't get all the springs. Oh, whoops, guess I missed one. No problem, I'll just go back and get it. Turns out I missed it where that propeller platform was, so now I have all 6 springs. Unfortunately, this game doesn't have any kind of exit level button or anything like that, so the only option is just beat the whole level again to get to the end. Kinda wish they had that. So now we can deliver the springs to the doc and he gives us a pea shooter, so we have a ranged weapon. The game makes us do a simple tutorial with it, not too bad, and then on to the next goal. The doc wants us to get 6 propellers and they're in the North Plain. After eating more popcorn and busting down the door, on to the North Plains. So immediately in this level we have to use our new pea shooter to hit someone who calls himself Daddy. I don't know, dude, this game's weird. After riding this slow floating platform around, we finally reach the first propeller, and then we go into yet another slow moving platform. Seems to be a theme here. Anyway, after riding these around we get the second propeller. In the next room there's these like floating bowling balls with nails in them. Dude, I don't know who comes up with these ideas. The 3rd propeller is found very shortly after the 2nd. After a bit more running around, we find yet another slow moving platform. This time we have to shoot targets with the pea shooter to have it move to them. There's a stop along the way with a long path leading to the 4th propeller, and after some chaos with electricity and more bowling balls, the slow moving platform finally ends. A bit later on, there's this dude wearing armor with electricity pulsing between his hands, and he's guarding the 5th propeller. It seems I had missed a propeller in this level yet again, so I had to go back through all those slow moving platforms a second time to find where I missed it. Turns out there was a popcorn machine I ignored that caused a certain platform to move, and that's the culprit. After riding this platform for forever, we get the 6th propeller behind some bendable bars. I really wish the devs put some sort of exit level mechanic in the game so that you don't have to play through the whole level again if you miss something. It's the 2nd time in a row this has happened. So we go back to the dock with the propellers and he tells us he's adjusted our bow tie to be able to fly. Then we go to another tutorial to teach us how to fly. The first room of the tutorial is pretty simple. We just have to fly into these gusts of wind to gain height and reach platforms. However, the second part of this tutorial is honestly the hardest thing in this entire game. I'm not kidding. You have to fly through these 12 rings, and the flight is just, it's so incredibly awkward. I'm not sure if they tried to make it like flying a real airplane would be or something like that, but it just does not feel fun to do. When you turn, it forces you to change direction aggressively and you lose height, and it took me like 10 minutes to get through this tutorial room. Thankfully, there's no flying as hard as this in the real game, so that's good. It's kind of like a trial by fire, I guess. Next, the doc wants us to get 6 jumping stones, which are found in the canyon. Once we get to the canyon, there's this random big elephant dude who complains about us being purple. I really don't know what the devs are trying to say with this gag. What does it matter that I'm purple? You're the second person. The heck? Anyway, to my dismay, the canyon happens to be a full-on flying level. My god, tell me I have to fly at the start of this level. That's the entire thing. Thankfully there isn't as much turning in this as there was in the tutorial, so it's not too bad. After complaining about the flying physics a bunch more, I found the first jumping stone not too far into the level, and the second's in a room right next to it. The one good thing about this level is it's very short, and after a bit more flying, there's this huge open area with lava at the bottom. There's a big metal statue of Grow on the wall with 2 more jumping stones where the eyes would be. The next area has us shoot some targets mid-flight to open doors, and at the end of this area is the 5th jumping stone. Finally, after one more flying section, we get the 6th. Hey, first time I didn't miss any in my first play of the level. So now we bring the jumping stones back to the dock, and he's like, hey, here's this goldfish bowl, put it on your head and you can swim. He says he wants us to find 6 feathers in the glacier cocktail. After experiencing how flying was, I was very worried about swimming, especially with how it is in other 3D games like Mario 64. However, the swimming in this game's honestly awesome. You just hold the R button and you accelerate in the direction you're facing, and I think this is a great way to do swimming in a platformer because it's not too different from running on land. So right away in the glacier cocktail, we're greeted by this big dude in armor who apparently leaves his rear armor flap open because, you know, it's such a pain to have that thing shut all the time. After taking care of him, there's a bunch of dudes who show up, they're ice skating for some reason, and we gotta eat more popcorn cause, you know, this game loves showing off that Newman's Own logo. And then we hit them with a boulder. Don't really know who they're hurting by skating around, but whatever. Killing them reveals some platforms that lead us up to the first feather. So then we come to this big open room with some weird looking fruit. Apparently it's part of a machine that we need to access the rest of the level. And down in the water of this room is the second feather. The weirdest part of this level was the next room. Agent XYZ tells us we're trapped and the only way out is to raise the water. Seems there's nothing you can do here, and then there's also no way to leave. There's an enemy throwing rocks at you and the camera focuses on him when you stand on an orange cog, but it didn't seem like there was anything related to that either. Finally, after like 10 minutes, I decided to just try hitting the rock back at the guy, and that was what you had to do. This mechanic's like never used, never explained at all before this point, so I had no idea. It was kind of frustrating because you think they would at least tell you about this mechanic before this part, but whatever. Killing this guy causes the ice to melt and we can finally get something accomplished in this room. Now that we can swim, we can find a room with the third feather as well as one of those amazing popcorn machines. I had to use the popcorn to be able to walk underwater, which allowed me to hit a switch that turned on a fan that froze the water, but it revealed another enemy. Then I had to lure the enemy over to the fan to press a switch, which froze him in a block of ice. Fortunately for us, the ice slides directly onto this switch that melts some ice and finally raises the water level. The fourth feather's on top of a popcorn machine that gets revealed when we raise the water. Then we can eat more popcorn to bend some bars, raise the water level again, which sends a cog from the previous room into the next room. And now the machine can finally work. The fifth feather's found on top of the water in the puzzle room, and now with the cog back in place, we can finally get the machine to work, opening a door revealing the final feather and the exit to the level. This level got really puzzly out of nowhere, and the rest of the game's going to do that too. So back to the dock we go, and he's excited for the feathers and he gives us some chameleon powder. This lets us transform into certain enemies if we stand on a hexagon with their picture on it. He wants us to go to the pyramid and find 6 dominoes for the ignition system of his device. Not really sure how that's supposed to work, but okay. So the first thing we see when we get to the pyramid is this mummified granny running around with a cane. I don't know, this game's just so weird. We gotta put that chameleon powder to use right away and transform into the granny to sneak into the pyramid. Inside the pyramid itself is this weird dude hiding behind bars or something, and he's yelling about mummies. He serves literally no relevance to the game, so I'm not sure why he's even there. The first room has this big cat statue that's blocking the way to the next room, and there's a light that shines a mouse silhouette on the ground, and the cat just can't resist chasing that mouse. So all we gotta do is stand on the platform that makes the light shine, and the cat will open the way for us. The next room has these absolutely overkill massive spikes, like they're way too big, and they're blocking the way from these 4 yellow heads on the wall. You have to hit the heads in the right order, and the problem is, as far as I can tell, there's no hint or anything to tell you what the right order is, so you just have to guess. If you get it wrong 3 times in a row, the ceiling crushes you and you die. Really fun. Solving this puzzle gives us the first domino and opens a trap door to the next area. The next room has these weird chomping teeth that just move around on their own, and they just keep respawning, and I don't know, they're freaky. And a bit more puzzling around in here, and there's one of those hexagons we can use. It transforms us into this giant pillar which lowers the ground, so I guess we're just not just limited to turning into creatures. This leads to a sarcophagus we can apparently teleport through, which gives us the second domino. And a bit more puzzling, and we find yet another popcorn machine. They really wanted to put this thing all over the place. Hope they got paid for those ads. Anyway, the popcorn lets us knock out a plug in the water so it drains to another room. Hitting some more switches and going into the sarcophagus teleporter eventually brings us to that room the water drained to. One path in this room has a bunch of boulders rolling down narrow hallways, kind of like that part in Sen's Fortress in Dark Souls. After way too long of a hallway, there's this switch that raises a platform in the previous room and a sarcophagus to teleport us out. Down the other path leads us to a more open room with some water. At the top is, you guessed it, a popcorn machine. This lets us spin some bars to get the third domino. There's also one of those mummy grannies in here who tries to kill us for some reason, so we kill her instead. Unfortunately, the innocent looking purple water is actually a one-hit kill. They don't ever tell you this until this point. In the next room, there's multiple sarcophagi with granny mummies in each one. We have to beat them all up to open a switch to one of the previous rooms to give us access to the fourth domino. The next room had this weird mechanic where you can hit a switch to spin the orientation of the room around, and there's yet another popcorn machine here that lets us open the path to get out. The final room had an empty area that seemed to need to be filled with water as there was a giant faucet over it. I didn't really feel like figuring it out, so instead I got on top of the faucet and just flew to the exit where the fifth domino is. The cheese! Even cheesing in Tonic trouble. Oh wait. That's only 5 dominoes, guess I missed one. Looks like it was in that last room and we needed a popcorn machine to reach it. So like always, we bring the dominoes back to the dock and it gives us a pogo stick. Now we can travel over dangerous surfaces like lava and destroy weak panels in the ground. The doc tells us his machine's missing one final thing, energy to power it. You know, maybe we'll go get like some fossil fuel to do it, or maybe some sort of gas to power it. No, he wants us to find 6 piggy banks. And yeah, that doesn't make any sense. I think this machine's gonna blow me up. When we first arrive at the pressure cooker, the pharmacist is there and he's telling us there's nothing we can do to stop him. Like, we should just be able to whack him with the stick or something and solve this whole problem, but whatever. This level is very different from the rest of the game. It's just a series of standard puzzles you have to solve. For example, the first room features a puzzle where you have to push a block and it doesn't stop sliding till it hits a wall. You see these puzzles in a lot of games. After pushing them all on the switches, we can go get the first piggy bank. Next, we come up to an enemy guarding a door, and thankfully there's one of those hexagon things, and we can transform into a hydraulic press and crush him. This leads us to the second piggy bank. The next room features a puzzle with a 3x3 grid, and stepping on one button changes all adjacent buttons to a different color. You have to change them all to red to solve it. I didn't really have a strategy for this puzzle, but I got it on accident, like basically immediately. It was really funny. Oh, apparently I do. I did it on accident. This gives us access to the third piggy bank, and in the next room there's a puzzle, if you can really call it that, where you just move a magnet to place boxes over leaking vents, and this causes some bubbles to fall out of the ceiling, which somehow solidifies all the lava and we can walk on it. Like, how cold are those bubbles? Anyway, this gives us the 4th piggy bank. Then for some reason in the next room they go away from the puzzle theme the level had, instead have you do some platforming to dodge flamethrowers and reach the 5th piggy bank. But after that they go right back to the puzzles and there's a 3x3 sliding tile puzzle. Thankfully, this was extremely easy for me because I've solved hundreds of these things playing RuneScape. Stupid Monkey Madness quest. Solving this puzzle gives us access to one of those hexagons that lets us transform into Grow himself. The guard is easily fooled and lets us through to the next room, where there's some sort of conveyor system pushing boxes. Good thing we can just transform into one of them. The worker we tricked kicks us into the area with the final piggy bank. Unfortunately for us, a mushroom shows up and steals the final piggy bank. Susie tells us we should go ask the doc what to do. So we go to the doc and he tells us we have to go to the magic mushroom's hideout and steal the piggy bank back from him. However, it's highly toxic and the only way we can get in is have 160 antidotes. Remember they told us we had to get 160 of those things to have immunity at the very beginning of the game? Yeah, this is what they were talking about. While I had been collecting a lot along the way, I only had 129 at this point. So I had to go back to tons of levels and get 31 more. I won't go too much into this, but the main things were the ski slope level from the start of the game gives you 5 if you beat that goal time, and you get 5 for beating the goal time in the flying stage as well. So after going back to basically every level, we finally had enough antidotes to take on the magic mushroom. His hideout starts out with this pretty neat sliding section, similar to the ski slope, but that's the only good thing about this area. We fight the mushroom in this square-shaped room with a big platform over lava. Basically, he has this green aura around him, which is his shield, and we have to wait till it's gone to shoot him. So this is like one of the end-game bosses, and you'd expect there to be some awesome music or something like that, right? Well, not exactly. It's just the exact same music that's been playing in basically every other area. I don't know, this boss is incredibly bland and boring, it's like the devs threw it in at the last minute. At the final phase, his shield is broken, so you just have to shoot him enough to get rid of it permanently. Problem is, the shooting in this game's kinda janky, and he's also constantly shooting at you, which makes this fight very frustrating. It's not too difficult though, and after beating him, we finally get the 6th piggy bank. Back to the dock we go, and he just tells us get onto the catapult. And this massive machine he's been building for the entire game was just to fling us over a mountain. Whatever, we're finally in Grow's lair. So now we are in the final area, and yeah, the game is still just playing that same song it's been playing the whole time. I will admit, the difficulty of this level is at least harder than all the previous ones. The platforming's a bit more enjoyable too. The first thing we have to do is press 2 switches to have them both active at the same time. Honestly, it was a pretty tight timer, but it's simple if you just start at the higher one and then fly to the next one. Next we go underground. We have to solve this puzzle where we just roll boulders onto switches. Doing this reveals a platform that leads to a popcorn machine. We have to become Super Ed to bend some bars, but the timer to reach the bars is actually really tight. I was struggling to get Ed to run, like if I ran straight ahead he would just walk, which made me run out of time. I found if I angled my camera to make me walk diagonally, usually I could run. I don't know, it's a weird game. The next room has some of those bowling balls with the nails in them, along with the one-hit kill purple water. It's pretty dangerous stuff, dude. There's some dude here guarding a room, but we just crush him with a boulder. Owned. This room had switches that partially opened a door, and I was struggling to figure out what the game wanted me to do here. Unfortunately, before I could figure out what to do, disaster struck. And I mean disaster of catastrophic proportions. I messed up on a jump and I got hit by one of those bowling balls, which knocked me back a bit. And as I watched hopelessly, I saw Ed fall through the platform I was meant to land on and into some out of bounds nothingness. Oh, this could be bad. This could be bad. No matter what I tried, I could not get out. I could hear Ed jumping, but nothing was happening. I'm not really sure where the game thought I was, but the main idea is I was soft locked and there was no way out. Normally this isn't a big deal, but remember at the start of the video how I said I didn't have a memory card? Yeah, so that means I hadn't saved the game a single time. And the way this game works, you can't just put one in and have it save after you've already started. There's also no function within the level to exit, remember? So I was truly stuck. And this was the absolute worst case scenario. I'm soft locked basically at the end of the game, and my only option is restart from the very beginning and clear the entire thing all over again. My chat and I searched for like almost half an hour on old cheat code websites that said, oh, you can warp to the final level, or oh, you can get all the power-ups at the start of the game. But you know how people were back in the 90s, we just made up fake cheat codes and then posted them, and then all these cheat code websites copied off each other to just have content on their site, you know, like, oh, push the truck and you can unlock Mew, or oh, go to the star statue in the garden and you can play as Luigi. So, with no other option, I turned the console off and started the game over. All again. This time I did have a memory card, so I was able to save as I went. Anyway, fast forward 4 hours or so of playing later, and we're back to where we got soft locked at. So, back to that partially opening door. Not sure what I was doing wrong before, but I got it open easily now. And no soft lock this time. So the next room has one of Gro's goons yelling at us, and even asks us if we think we're in a video game, like, yeah, this is literally a video game, dude. So this is basically the final room of the level, and it has a ton of objectives to do. Basically, you have to build a bridge to Gro's room, completing certain things that cause a piece of a floating bridge to appear. I won't really go into detail here, but we do get to turn into a boulder, which I thought was really cool. After getting all the pieces of the bridge, we can cross over to finally confront Gro. So when we get in here, Gro's in this mech thing, and it looks like an evil version of Squidward's house. This boss is a bit different. He's chasing you around in the mech and you just run away. Honestly, this chasing section was probably the best part of the whole game. Not that there's that many good parts to choose from. It's not too tough though, and we make it to the second room where there's a dang popcorn machine waiting for us. They had to make sure they got one of those in for the final fight, you know? Basically, we become Super Ed and knock these boulders into him until he falls down a pit. The next phase has us fighting him in this huge open room where the whole floor is lava. Unfortunately, we have to fly the entire time. Oh yeah, there's also no epic music for this fight, just the same music it's played the entire game. Basically, you just fly around and shoot all the targets to cause a platform to rise up that you can stand on. He sends some rocks at you, and then you shoot him, and he gets hurt, and he pushes the platform back down. Just repeat all that over 2 more times, and Gro is finally defeated once and for all. There's a cutscene where Ed jumps inside the mech and whacks Gro with his stick. They try to create a sympathetic narrative for Gro where everything got out of control and the pharmacist manipulated him. I don't know, I didn't really like this. Like, he was trying to take over the world. I think he's evil. Ed retrieves the tonic that caused all that trouble and somehow spawns a podium out of his pocket and stands on it like he just got first place at the Olympics. And then Susie shows up. And I guess her and Ed are a couple now. This game is so weird. Somehow the tonic sends out a pulse that puts everything back to normal. Also, Susie calls us Sweetie Pie. She thinks it couldn't have only been the can that caused all the chaos, and they should make sure to take better care of the environment from now on. Well, this game was made in the 90s, so there's been a lot of time past then, and I'm sure we've listened to their message since then. Right? Alright, there you have it. That is my journey to beating Tonic Trouble. This game, honestly, it's not very good. I know it was just a prototype to see how Rayman would work in 3D, but man, it was a chore playing through it. The music just stayed the same the entire game. There's a lot of jankiness in the physics. The frame rate's not very good, and there's just not too many good things to say about this game. I give it a 2.5 out of 10 for enjoyability and a 4 out of 10 for difficulty. Honestly, I would not recommend playing it. But yeah, if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you did enjoy the video, consider giving it a like as it helps me out a lot. And if you want to see more of these videos, consider subscribing so you don't miss the next one. But yeah, thank you for watching, and here's a sneak peek at the next game. I don't have any of the Japanese games on here yet, but we'll roll a number between 1 and 304. What will we get? What will we get? What will we get? 183, which is not Yoshi's Story. We will be playing the next NHL Breakaway game, which is NHL Breakaway 98. I'm sure that is going to be a lot of fun. I absolutely love hockey. I actually hate hockey. I don't like... I like soccer more than hockey, and I don't like soccer.